Welcome to another segment of ACRP TV. Our spotlight today is on how to navigate a successful CRA career path. It's something of a trick question because CRA career paths are not the most visible things in the world, but we've got a good person to speak with today about it. Our special guest is Jasmyn Adams, who's the founder of the CRA Solution and a great teacher in this field. Jasmyn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you, Michael, for having me.
Now let's talk about navigating this maze. For as big an industry as the CRA and the clinical trials industry is, we have not particularly clear established career paths. So that's a bit of a challenge at the outset, I would think.
Yes, it is. It creates, as you can imagine, as you said, quite the conundrum because it's not like, medical school, law school is very straightforward, right? You get your undergrad degree, you go to med school 4 years, law school 3 years, you come out, you do your residency or what have you, you take the exam, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer. But for CRAs, it's totally different. You can talk to 10 CRAs and all 10 will have a completely different story on how they got into the industry.
So with that in mind, because again, that's an open kind of challenge. With challenge comes opportunity. With that kind of openness, there's a freedom, but it's also, what are some of the things someone like you would suggest to someone who is maybe either early in the field and looking to create a career path for themselves and forge one for themselves if there's one not obvious in front of them?
So, well, first I would address the kind of elephant in the room in that most people think that they need some clinical research training or CRA training, which those things, don't get me wrong, they're very, very helpful, especially once you get the CRA job, because you'll get training, but you can never have enough. I'll just put it that way. But the true problem is that most of these people lack career development, myself included, when I was attempting to get my first CRA job. It's career development. And when I say career development, just to be clear, I'm referring to your resume, CV, cover letter, the job search strategies that people are using, their interview strategies, networking, their personal branding and marketing. That's a big thing I focus on. All of those things matter. Their LinkedIn profile and how they're leveraging or not leveraging LinkedIn. That's usually where I see the gap in most people that are struggling to land their first CRA position.
So let's talk a little bit more about that gap. Talk about some of the typical problems you see, or maybe people that come to you. What are some very common problems you see people stumbling over?
So I always like to address this point because you always have those people out there that say, well, I've been in the industry for 20 years and I have this degree and that degree and I have this experience, or they just go through their resume, so to speak, or their history, and on paper it might look amazing, right? Or in theory it looks amazing, but the reality is that they may not have done quite a good enough job in reflecting that on paper or online if it's their LinkedIn profile. So, when a recruiter, a hiring manager comes across and they read it, it's not obvious in all that they've done. So that could be one of the issues. I've also had people to reach out to me and say, well, no, it's about who you know. And I just don't know the right people. And in some regards, that could be, the case, but that's where networking comes in, right? And if you're constantly networking, and when I say networking, I don't mean, you just meet a bunch of people and kind of put them on the back burner. But networking is an ongoing relationship that you must not only establish, but you also have to nurture, grow. And really it's a lifelong process. You never know when, you may need to reach out to someone, or how, someone may be connected, whether indirectly or directly. So networking could take care of that issue when it comes to people saying, well, I don't know the right people, or, this person got it because she knew that person. But it's a combination of things. So it's really hard to have this conversation because it's a multifaceted problem, right? And there's not one thing that I could say that could, guarantee that, you're going to get the position, which is why it really does kind of take strategizing and really developing a clear cut plan in terms of how you plan to get from A to B. So I always tell people first, you need to make sure that this is even what you want to do, because a lot of people say they want to be a CRA, but do you really? Because it's a very challenging career, and it's fast paced, it's constantly changing, it's very demanding. So I always pose that question. And then you really got to get in the right mindset. And that takes a bit of personal development. I, for one, am always constantly working on myself. I have a few career coaches, a couple of personal development coaches, and it's something that you have to embrace. It's ongoing, right? It's not a one-time thing. And then really, like I said, focusing on those pieces, the personal branding and marketing pieces, where your resume, and it's not just a matter of just listing your history or your experiences or your education or skills. You really have to piece it together to tailor and create a story for each position. I might add that, even though you're applying for all CRA positions, each company still is kind of looking for a few different things. So you do have to tailor them for every single position each time you submit it, but really telling your story and bringing to the table the value that you can add to the company. How can you uniquely navigate this position as a CRA? And the same thing for interviews, right? Don't come in and just regurgitate what you think they want to hear. You have to really express how you are unique and the value that you can bring to the company. So all of those things just coming together, and I definitely want to touch on the fact that LinkedIn is a key component to that. Especially nowadays, a lot of people don't realize just how important LinkedIn truly is and can be to your career, whether that's a CRA or any other position for that matter. But you really have to take advantage of LinkedIn. You have to create a strong profile and complete it from top to bottom. I hate when I see people that don't have a picture, for example. You definitely want to have a picture on your profile, and not just any picture. It needs to be, not to say you have to spend, hundreds or thousands of dollars to get a photo shoot, but a nice headshot, right? Not the seatbelt in the car with the seatbelt across the, no,
Right.
we definitely want to avoid those. But things like that, and not using the default banner or the default headline, but really tailoring it to showcase who you are and what you bring to the table and how you can add value to any company.
So it sounds like a lot of this as the CRA, it's up to you to come up with this. I mean, I wonder, do you think, are the career paths in this industry getting a little more defined than they were, say, 5 or 10 years ago? Or are we still in the same place?
Oh no, absolutely. They're definitely becoming more defined, more challenging, and it's for many reasons. Number one, the government, they're requiring more of these companies, so that's part of the problem. And then back when we first started trials, it wasn't as clearly defined or outlined as to what was needed or what was required. But now, as we have gotten further along, there's more requirements on the back end, and then these studies are just honestly getting more complicated. So with all of that being said, absolutely, it is becoming it's its own beast, really. It's turning into a little monster.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. This has been our ACRP TV spotlight on how to navigate a successful CRA career path. Hopefully after this session, viewers feel a little more confident in doing that. Our special guest has been Jasmyn Adams, who's the founder of the CRA Solution. Jasmyn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Michael, for having me.